All right, students, this is the last part of Unit 7, Section 2, and this is the fourth type of factoring we have, and it's called factoring with opposites. Okay, and we're going to do what we did with grouping, is we're going to take this polynomial and we're going to group it into two, and when we do that, let's find out what our factors are, okay? So 2x cubed is 2 and 3x's. 12x squared is 2 times 3 for 6 times 2xx. So what do they have in common? They have a 2 and they have 2 x's. So what's left? Let's pull out 2x squared. So what's left is x minus 6, because that's a minus 6. Okay? Now let's look at the 18 and the 3x. So for 18, you can take 9 times 2. 9 is 3 times 3 times 2. And for 3x, it's just 3x. All right, so what do they have in common? They have a 3 in common here, so plus 3. And what's left is 6 minus x. Okay? Now, when you have two binomials where you have x minus 6 and 6 minus x, those are called opposite. So they would cancel each other out when they're opposites, okay? So what we can do is we can do the opposite of this one. So let's just look right here at the 6 minus x. Okay? What you can do with this is you can factor out a -1. So if we factor out a -1 from this binomial, every term inside goes to its opposite. So that is now a -6, and the opposite of a -x is now a positive x. So what I can do is I can rewrite that as x minus 6. And look what we have. We have a common binomial factor, which is what we're trying to do. Okay, so that's why this is called opposites. So let's bring down the rest of the problem here. I'm going to bring it down in green. Okay, so I have my 2x squared, x minus 6, plus 3, and then the rest of that. So what I need to do is I need to multiply my 3 and my -1 here. So I have 2x squared, x minus 6. 3 times the -1 is -3, x minus 6. So I have 2x squared minus 3, and then my common binomial factor, which is x minus 6. Okay? So what we're learning here on is the opposites. This is a positive x, this is a negative x. This is a -6, this is a positive 6. So they're called opposites. And when you have opposites, you can factor out that -1 to come up with a common binomial factor. Okay, let's look at another one of these. Okay, first step is to separate this polynomial into two binomials. Okay, let's factor out this binomial. We have 15x squared, which is 5 times 3, xx. And then we have 10x cubed, which is 5 times 2, xxx. All right, so what do they have in common? They have a 5 and they have 2 x's. So 5x squared, and we have 3 minus, what's left here, 2x. Now let's factor out the second binomial. 8x is 2 times 2 times 2 times x. And then 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. Okay? So we can factor out a 4. So that's a positive 4. And what we have left is we have 2x minus 3. All right. Are these binomials opposites? Well, this is a positive 3, this is a -3. Opposite. This is a -2x. What's the opposite of a -2x? Positive 2x. because they are opposites, what we can do is we're just going to look at this binomials. We can factor out a -1. So if we factor out a -1, every term inside this binomial goes to its opposite. So a positive 2x goes to a negative 2x. A -3 goes to a positive 3. So we can rewrite that as positive 3 minus 2x. And now we have a common binomial factor. We bring down the rest of this polynomial. So what we need to do now is we need to take the 4 times the -1. Then you can pull out your common binomial factor. So we have 5x squared minus 4, and then your common binomial factor. All right, one more, and then we're finished. Okay, so let's separate this polynomial into 2 binomials. All right, so let's factor out the first one. We have 8y and we have 8. So that's 2 times 2 times 2 times y. And this one is 2 times 2 times 2. So, common factor is 8. And we have y left over minus, you cannot put 0 here. You've got to put your coefficient of 1, or your constant of 1. That's not a coefficient, that's a constant, okay? All right, now let's look at, you have negative x, and you have xy. All right, so let's put a -1 right there. All right, so well, what do they have in common? They have this x in common. So we're going to pull out this x. And inside, you're going to have a -1 plus y. Y'all see how I did that? X is what is common, so it's a positive x. Inside is -1 plus y. All right, now let's see if these are opposites. What's the opposite of a positive y? -1. What's the opposite of a -1? Positive 1. So these are not opposites, but can you rewrite this binomial so it matches this? Are these binomials the same? They are, because you have a positive y minus 1. That's the same as a -1 plus y. All right? So our common binomial factor is y minus 1. So we have 8 plus x, and then y minus 1. And that's it for your factoring. Have a good one.